Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. In 1981, I was 10 years old. My parents had recently divorced and Mom was now trying to pick up the pieces. She liked to take my 6-year-old brother and me on hikes in the mountains and day trips to the beach when she had time off from work. It was one of those early autumn days on this particular day. We drove up the scenic coastal Highway 101 from Los Angeles to Malibu in her Vega Beast, which didn't seem to bother her at all. She even brought a first-time date to join in on the fun. I recall him having wavy blonde hair and a strong chin, despite his short stature. On a day like today, it's strange to recall a complete stranger. We arrived at Zuma Beach as the sun was setting. As wispy clouds drifted by in the milky blue sky, a light breeze blew off the ocean. There seemed to be no other visitors to the beach for miles around. We had some fun in the sand. I eventually decided to put my feet in the water. In contrast to the slight chill from the breeze against my skin, the Pacific felt surprisingly like bath water. The surf, however, did not crash and roll onto the sand as usual. Surprisingly, there was no real white water to speak of. It was soupier, like tipping a soup bowl back and forth and swishing it around. As we frolicked in the shallows, up to our knees in water, our small group stayed relatively close. It felt great, and I wanted to go deeper, even though I didn't have any extra clothes to change into. I was about 6 or 7 feet out from the others, up to my thighs, when I felt a current pull on me. I didn't hesitate and took a step forward, only to discover that there was no ocean floor to keep me steady. I was suddenly swallowed up and sucked down into a swirling vacuum of water where I couldn't touch the bottom. I rolled upside down, round and round like a washing machine before being slammed face first into the seafloor. Zuma Beach had zoomed, that is, crash-landed me into an unseen sandbar, much to my surprise. The unthinkable happened before I could react. My entire point of view shifted in the blink of an eye. As quickly as I'd become a dizzy, unfocused mess of chaos underwater, I found myself floating calmly above my body, invisible and hyper-aware. I was about 1 story up with a remarkable and instantaneous ability to see panoramic 360-degree views of the surrounding areas and the horizon. I could see everything at once, like an all-seeing eye with only the desire to focus on one thing in particular. It was as if I could see through a crown of eyes wrapped around my head. But I lacked form, shape, and color. I saw right through myself as if I were nothing more than air. I focused my attention on the body below as it continued to be pummeled by the water, and I realized it was mine. I felt like I owned it in the same way that a child owns a novelty toy, to be played with and then discarded. However, I couldn't recall who the people standing around the body were, and it made no difference to me. I couldn't care less about who they were. In fact, I had no emotional attachment to my body or to my mother or brother. Even if I'd remembered who they were at the time, I doubt I would have cared about them. I remember being fascinated by my body, watching it flail around like a piece of meat being ripped apart by some hungry animal. I had total and complete amnesia regarding my 10 years of mortal life on Earth. I couldn't even remember what I said, and I didn't need it to form intelligent thoughts and opinions about what I saw. I could think and reason using concepts and abstract ideas. It is extremely difficult to explain my emotional state outside of my body. There was a disconnect from my life's memories, but truth be told, I felt more alive and energized than ever before. Not only did I exist outside of the Earth's gravitational pull, but the emotional buoyancy and carefree weightlessness of the soul were almost indescribable. It was weightless in more ways than one. I was acutely aware of being weightless in the face of all the cares and concerns that come with living in a linear dimension. I had gone off the grid. There were no ties to other people, no promises to keep, no guilt from sin or failing to meet some standard, no pressure to perform or learn how to conform to society, no need to go to school or work, no need for acceptance, food, or basic human survival needs. I can't express how liberating it was to be free of those burdens. My reality was profoundly influenced by not being yoked to those unspoken worldly weights. It gave me such elation. I was inflated with elation and wanted to fly up into the clouds like a balloon. That was my final thought before being thrown back into the body 25 seconds later, time according to Mom. All the colors of the sky, the sunlight as it bathed the Malibu hillside, the clouds reflecting twilight oranges, reds, pinks and purples, gold and dusty browns, the color of the sea and all its wondrous hues of blues and greens, the sand on the beach, the cars on the highway, even the colors of the bushes, palms and trees were all magnified, more crisply acute to me during those timeless moments, more than ever before and even ever since. The audio sensation was present, but in a much less dramatic form. Hearing what was going on around me seemed much less important than seeing everything. I made the decision to leave the scene and ascend with the spirit of a child. There was no tunnel, nor were angels beckoning my soul to heaven. There were no other spirits to be seen, but I hadn't left this dimension yet either. My mother let out a terrible shrill scream in the millisecond before I flew away. She yelled out my name. And then I was back inside my drowning body in an instant. My lungs had caught fire. My head pounded against the shelf of the sandbar, and my body felt like dead weight anchored to the ocean floor. I crawled blindly in the swirling, wet chaos, digging my fingers into the sand. The water then seemed to recede enough for my head to emerge. My mother screamed again as she saw my head rise, and she waded over to assist me. I started crying uncontrollably 5 minutes later as I lay on the sand trying to compose myself. I had an epiphany when I was 10 years old. I now understand that there's life after death. My parents' religion, Scientology, had already taught and informed me about the human spirit. What a marvel! There is a part of humanity that can live, dare I say, thrive outside of the flesh and time and never die. There is a part of me that is not my drowning body. On that twilit beach, I swore an oath to myself. If I had a choice, I would never come back and live inside a body again. My life has never been the same since I turned 40. That experience confirmed my eternal existence. However, it also opened a Pandora's box of other unanswered questions for which I now turn to my faith. I cannot be satisfied with a worldview gained solely through people, society, and cultures. There is simply too much at stake. My eternity and where I will spend it are as important to me as my current life on earth. Maybe even more so now that I know my consciousness does not simply fade away or black out after physical death.